Cody was founded in 1897 by Colonel William F. Buffalo Bill Cody.
Tunnels through the rock take you past a vast Buffalo Bill Reservoir and into the city. We came a week or so before the Sturgis, South Dakota motorcycle event, and the place was packed with motorcycles.
Cody, being famous for rodeos, have nightly events here to entertain the many tourists who visit here. The city's proud of its Western heritage as shops and buildings show.
Yellowstone is a short ride away, and many tourists stay here and go there for the day. I suggest staying longer than that if you possibly can. This lovely city is nestled in a valley on the edge of the national park.
William Frederick Cody was a soldier, a bison hunter, and a showman who became known as Buffalo Bill.
Cody's Wild West show, which featured cowboys, cowgirls, and Native Americans, became an international institution and made him one of the world's first global celebrities. The show ran for 30 years and traveled throughout the United States and Europe.
The Buffalo Bill Center of the West Museum is on an impressive building with 5 major exhibits. They have an exhibit hall for Buffalo Bill, Plains Native Americans, firearms, Whitney Western Art Museum, and the Draper Natural History Gallery. It's a fascinating place to spend a couple of days.
Ever wondered why a buffalo's head's so big? It's so they can dig for food in the snow.
The Pony Express was an American express mail service that used relays of horse-mounted riders between Missouri and California. It offered speedy mail delivery in 10 days, which back then was quite the accomplishment.
Although the Pony Express lasted only 18 months before the telegraph replaced the service, it earned a place in Western history.
Company owners, Russell, Waddell, and Majors, hired 15 to 20-year-olds who weighed less than 125 pounds to be mail carriers, and they were given a Bible, a gun, and an oath to follow.
Buffalo Bill Cody was a colorful, larger-than-life figure who showed it in his style of dress as well as his imagination.
Cody married Louisa Federici at the age of 20 and stayed married until his death 50 years later.
Louisa didn't enjoy the spotlight and preferred to stay home with the children. This meant they were often separated for long periods while Buffalo Bill traveled with the Wild West show. But he didn't spoil her with jewelry.
Traveling with the show meant many nights under canvas, but his living quarters showed that he didn't suffer that much.
One of Buffalo Bill's sharpshooters was Annie Oakley. This is her costume that she wore during the show. Look how tiny she was.
Buffalo Bill Cody was a true entrepreneur, and while his Wild West show was a huge success, some of his other business ventures were probably a little ahead of their time.
There were a great many tribes that made up the indigenous people of the Great Plains and Canadian prairies. Not all indigenous are plain tribes.
The designers of this museum chose to represent the indigenous in a neutral color like this because of the many different colors of skin the indigenous have.
Dogs were valued as members of the household and used to carry loads as the people moved.
Look at the beautiful decorations on these walking sticks.
The rare birth of a white buffalo calf was considered a good omen.
This shield, although small in size, was considered a powerful defense weapon because of the sun and crescent moon markings, emanating spiritual protection.
Teepees provided protection for families against the elements, but were also useful to carry things in as they moved from place to place. Young children dressed in traditional clothing play in the sunshine.
This beautiful exhibit showcased headdresses of important tribe members.
Spectacular pieces of clothing were on display all over the museum and are difficult to appreciate on film. As we often say, you have to see this museum yourself.
The museum has special attractions from time to time, and we were so lucky to see a birds of prey show.
After he was hit by a car. Now, after some research at the veterinary hospital, they discovered that he had shattered his pelvis, and that's that big square that holds your hips in. Now, there's not much you can do other than give it time to heal, and so they did that. And once those bones were healed and it was time for him to start rebuilding his strength so he could get back in the wild, they discovered that his tail does not work properly. Now, if this was my...
Although these birds couldn't fly anymore, they were well taken care of and a treat to see.
Well, we're here in Wyoming still, just outside of Cody, and we're at a Japanese internment camp memorial center.
Heart Mountain.
Yeah, Heart Mountain. And this is quite remarkable because, you know, we know that this happened, you know, the internment of the Japanese, but we never realized what hardship they suffered during this time.
Which is kind of foolish of us. I mean, how could we have thought it otherwise? But the important thing is that we remember stuff like this.
So if you're in Wyoming, anywhere near Cody, come and visit this place. The attack on Pearl Harbor caused the government and many people to turn on Japanese Americans.
Suddenly, Japanese Americans, all American citizens, were considered a national threat and herded off to relocation centers. People were told to report to a meeting place where they were transported to a camp. They lost their homes, businesses, possessions, and dignity. Most never recovered.
Internment was dealt with in many ways by Japanese Americans. Some chose to use the time making crafts, and others chose to work in the areas of need by the internees.
James Ito, a recent graduate in soil science, and some others, chose to use their education and farming skills to turn a desolate land into fertile soil to grow food. Their combined efforts in 1943 and 44 led them to have the highest food production per acre in the state.
One of the internees spent months carving a poem into a rock, which he later buried, hoping it would be an artifact for future generations. It was discovered many years later by homesteaders and given to the museum. Cody is rich in history, and we enjoyed our visit there, but it was time to move on.
Hey, thanks for watching. And if you like our videos, please press the subscribe button.